the second time I've said this. The first time nobody heard me. Fingers crossed.
I can hear you.
Oh, thank God. We've just had a fabulous 5-minute intro to the show. And as I've just said to Mike, shame no one will ever hear it. YouTube were, shall we say, having a moment.
That's when I introduced myself and then after 10 minutes realised I was on mute.
Jonathan says he's got an advert. Adverts are off at the moment. So you definitely shouldn't have an advert. Adverts are off at the moment. They're on the replay, but they are not there when we're live. Anyway, hello and welcome, everyone. That was Hairy Scary. Right. For the interested, what happened was I couldn't push the go live button because they'd put another button over the top of it. So I refreshed. I then got the go live button, hit the go live button, and I went live. Only you weren't there. So I had to come out of that and refresh again. And finally, I'm here. Hopefully, only fractionally late, but, better late than never. And it could be much, much worse. So let's see. People are getting adverts. You shouldn't have adverts. Let me have a look at the monetization. I can insert an advert, but I haven't done that. I haven't inserted any ads whatsoever, not when we're live. So fingers crossed you won't be interrupted again. If you are and it's skippable, just skip it. Right, so hello. Oh, I've done all sorts while we were trying to, get you to see and hear us. Shall we move the slide and make sure that you are actually seeing what you should be seeing? Right, there, I've moved the slide. Let's see if you should be seeing that yet. No, because I've also done weird things over here as well. Right, let's try that. Thumbs up if you can see something different, something other than the poster. What's coming up tonight? I did say we'd be a bit rusty, but it wasn't us, it was YouTube. Anyway, it's fantastic to see so many of you with us. What's slow mode?
See the running order.
Good. Slow mode means that you can only post once every 30 seconds. The reason is, if you remember back to one of our Affinity shows, we got a rather insistent, what would you call him? Spammer, who seemed very interested in coupling up with us, literally. So we put slow mode on, meaning that you can only post once every 30 seconds. The other thing we did was you can only post in the chat if you're subscribed, and you need to be subscribed, I think it's for 5 minutes. Now, obviously, you're chatting away, so you're all subscribed and everything's fine. But slow mode has no impact on you whatsoever, other than the fact that, if a spammer comes in, they want to post and post and post and post, and we don't want to see their rubbish. So that's why we've turned it on. Okay, right. So we've got weird things going on with ads. Okay, I will have a look at that, but ads are not on at the moment. They will be on the replay, but they're not on when we're live. So fingers crossed on that front. Keep us updated. So now we're back. First things first. Yes, we've got the week at MacBites headquarters, and what a week it's been. You should have missed that over the last few months, because things have been just as chaotic. We've just not been sharing it. Then we have our first proper section, which is an Affinity Designer 2 project from concept to completion. Real world one. Did it myself this week. Then we're moving on to perfect mockups. You'll like that because it's free and it's easy. Anyone could do it. You don't even need a computer. You can make do with a device. Then I have a couple of freebies for you, one of which would help me out immensely, but they are both completely free. Then we've got full-size cover pages in a range of apps. Might even let you vote on which ones we do. We'll see how it goes. Okay. Right, so a little bit of admin first, and then we'll get everybody situated with what After Hours is. But where's my... Oh, not again. Come on. There we go. Right, we're broadcasting in 1080p. YouTube does weird things. It's had me in 360 all week on my beautiful iPad, and I'm thinking it's like a pea soup fog. So do check that you're receiving in 1080p. If you're watching on catch-up, you should have a red flag on there as well. Right, there is a like button down there. That really helps us out. So if you find anything that you enjoy in the show, click the like button. Right. Going to go over what we have coming up first before we even do the week at MacBites headquarters. Now, normally we do this at the end. If you stay with us right till the end, guess what? You get it twice. Ah, you are so lucky. But the reason that I'm putting this at the beginning is we've got a lot of people with us who maybe never, ever have seen an After Hours before and are thinking, what on earth is this like? Well, It's part of the MacBites Podcast, and the MacBites Podcast is, as we say, unapologetically quirky. So we chat a lot rather than just give you the facts of whatever it is that we're doing. But there are many learning opportunities as well. But you may want to skip the week at MacBites headquarters, go and have a brew or something. I wanted to put this in here so you know what's coming up on the channel in the next few weeks. Obviously, we have, finally, Affinity Publisher 2 for iPad. Not that there was an Affinity Publisher 1 for iPad, but it's finally here. So, I've already done one session on Publisher, but it wasn't the iPad version. Guess what my most requested next video is? Affinity Publisher 2 for iPad. So that will be the next live session. I would have a date to give you for that today, but for what's happened this week. So the date will be with us probably within the next week. I will also be doing sessions on Designer 2 for iPad, Photo 2 for iPad, and then back to the desktop, Affinity 2 for desktop, and that one will be very similar to the one that we did on Publisher. So the new features and a Q&A. We will do the same for Photo, and if it's Publisher you're interested in, that one is available on demand right now. We didn't top 3 hours, but we could very easily have done. But the first half of it, about an hour and 42 to 45 minutes, was the demonstrations. After that, it was all the Q&A. But I have been informed that there was quite a lot in the Q&A that people found useful, so it's worth whipping through the Q&A anyway. If you want to be first to get the dates for all of those events, then you need to sign up to my newsletter, which you can do at elainegiles.com/VIP. And I will send out the dates there first. So I'll leave that QR code there for a couple of seconds and then remind you what we are covering tonight. So we are tonight covering those. So next of all, we are going into the week at MacBites headquarters. As I say, if you're not a podcast person, if you've never seen the week at MacBites headquarters, you might want to go and make a brew. It depends. But you can also stay with us. So the week at MacBites headquarters. It started last Saturday. And last Saturday was a good day because we went live. We did Affinity Publisher 2. As I say, we almost touched 3 hours, but not quite. We were a couple of minutes shy of that. And we had great fun. Some brilliant questions, which led to solutions for people. So I know Peter asked about installing fonts. And the answer to that was useful for Alistair. So good job you asked. Right, Sunday was a quiet day, which was just as well given the rest of the week. But we did have our obligatory Tesco delivery. Is there still a long-term radish shortage, Mike?
No.
Oh, we've solved that. We've replaced it. Don't mention eggs to Mike. No. With bird flu and the price rises, they're now rationed. It'll be ration books next. You do realise this, don't you, Mike? So, shortage of eggs this week. Monday, things were looking grand. It was going to be a great week. Went into the studio, did my MacBites stuff. Everything was fine. So much so, for a Wednesday release, on Tuesday, I treated myself. I treated myself to some time with the iPad apps, Publisher, Designer, and Photo. That was kind of where my week ended, really, because then Wednesday arrived. Now, we've known that this was about to happen since July, because they've been warning us since July. But they keep putting it off. So we keep getting a little letter through the door saying, we're coming. You're wondering who, aren't you? The gas man. And I had this phrase in my head, the gas man cometh. So I starts looking it up and I was right. There is a song, The Gas Man Cometh. Not joking now. It's an old music hall act. It's fabulous. Mike's going to put the link in for this. If you've never heard this, I don't know how they wrote this 50 odd years ago, but it was my week. Exactly my week. Brilliant song. Absolutely brilliant. About the great British workman. So, Wednesday, The Gas Man Cometh, Part 1. Now, on Wednesday, I didn't realise it was Part 1. I thought that was going to be it. Oh, silly me. But they didn't give us 48 hours notice, which means you're not getting in. And they didn't. Wednesday was far too important to share it with the gas man. Wednesday was the 16th of November, and it was our 4th birthday. We started after hours. If you've not been with us since the start, we started after hours purely as a one-off. And it was because Apple were ruining our events with their lukewarm announcements. So we decided we'd do an event without them. And we did on the 16th of November 2018. It's crazy, isn't it? But you enjoyed it so much, we then said we'd do another one. And we did 168 in just over 3 years. Wednesday was also the day. Michael put the link into episode 1 if you want to go back and see how chaotic it was. If you think today was chaotic, the first one was even worse. Then on Wednesday, I got a very important and interesting email, which is Notion, and you know we use Notion to manage the shows. Notion are releasing AI. The logic of this is, if we move down to the bottom, you will be able in Notion to say, give me some promotion ideas about whatever. And the AI will give you promotional ideas. And you then get to say, I'll keep those, they're great. No, they're not too good, try again, or discard them. Loving the idea. I predict we're going to have some fun with that one. But I signed up for it straight away. Maya's going to put a link in so you can sign up for it if you want. It's an alpha. I'm presuming you need a Notion account, but a Notion account is completely free. So what will happen with that link is it will add you to the early access list, and we will both get bumped up the waiting list because we're sharing the link. So that's the idea with it. So if you are interested in that, sign up with the link, and as soon as it's out and as soon as I get access, I will share it with you. So Thursday. Yes. The Gas Man Cometh Part 2. This wasn't good news for me. On a general level, I don't like people, and I certainly don't like people in the house. COVID, you know. Even less so, 6:30 in the morning. So this was the day the night owl, that was me, was forced to be an early bird. Now, I'm known to be grumpy if I have to get up at 11 o'clock, so you can imagine what 6:30 did to the atmosphere at MacBites headquarters. And just when you thought it couldn't possibly get any worse, especially for poor Mike coping with it, we had no internet. I discovered this as I staggered out of bed, half couldn't see a thing, and grabbed my phone. I couldn't even blame the gas man, he hadn't even surfaced at that point. I was beginning to wish that I hadn't either. But I got the internet back, at which point the A-lady sprang into life and proudly proclaimed, you need to check for flooding in case you've got to evacuate. I thought, and you're telling me this today? Thank you for that. Seriously, the government had issued a flood alert for our area, and we were already considerably lower towards sea level, given the fact that the gasman had dug holes all over the place. Going back to bed was looking more and more appealing by the second, but sadly wasn't an option. Lady Lola was getting ready to head out and inspect her kingdom. Once she'd checked the expected flooding map, and that was it. If you're wondering where we are in relation to all of that, sandwiched right between it. There's 2 areas of flooding, the biggest one at the top and the other one at the bottom. We're between it. So if I can get my mouse pointer, we are around this area here. So it was almost safe. It depended on how bad things got. But it could have been worse, couldn't it? Oh, it could. Lola gets outside the door. She'd literally only just stepped outside the safe confines of MacBites headquarters to be greeted by barriers all over the place. This is right outside our front door, literally. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have seen, you might have noticed something in that picture. I mean, obviously I was just horror-struck by all the barriers and stuff, but if you look in the middle of it, just above halfway up, yes. I've never used a wheelbarrow like that either, but, you know, the gas man, what can you say? This was the other end of our property, where they dug another hole. So that's the front of it. There's the wheelbarrow upside down. Although I think you've taken a great shot there, Mike, with the light coming in. These are untouched. These aren't photoshopped or Affinity photoed. And there's like a heavenly light shining down on it, isn't there? And there's another one shining down. We're in that room. Right now, we're in that room at the top. So, yeah, Lola wasn't pleased. Not at all. Everywhere she looked, everywhere we looked, is surrounded by holes. That's our back gate. Yeah, and that's one of the holes, one of the many holes, one of the many pipes and other associated detritus. You can just see the supervisor in the lower right, the lovely Lola. She was ensuring that digging was to her high standard. That is our gate, and it's covered in mud from their digging, and no, we can't get the car out. With the plastic barriers, the up-ended wheelbarrows, and 2 12-foot long, 4-foot deep trenches to navigate, one right outside the front door, we can't go anywhere. Good job we're not trying to go anywhere, isn't it, really? And then Lola was checking the depth. It's a wonder she didn't jump in. How is she so clean in the face of all of this detritus, Mike?
Have you checked the underneath of her?
Well, it's all right. It'll drop off in the end. So, by the end of the day, we had the engineer come in and check everything. It was all sorted. At which point, this happened. Oh, no, surely not. I'm afraid so. So, next week, we've got a little something to look forward to. Do you know the thing is, by the time they fixed it, the only thing that'll happen then is people will start parking on the pavement again. So I don't really care what's on the pavement, it's in the way. But that takes us to today. So you can see the week we've had. That's why there's no date for these events. Because if they're coming back tomorrow, yep, that was Saturday, that was my day. But they're coming back tomorrow. And probably for the rest of the week. So, we're back! Oh, I know it's been a while, but we are indeed back. So, just pre-warning you, that first 5 minutes will be classic, won't it? I'll have to put that out as a separate little show. Me sitting here talking to myself. We could be a little bit rusty, but you know, how far wrong can we possibly go? Be careful what you ask, that's all I'll say. Be careful what you ask. So before we move on, have we got any pressing questions?
Yeah. Deb Andrew wants to know where Chicken is.
Chicken is actually outside. Bring Chicken in. Chicken can come in. If we have any calamities, we will bring Chicken in. But as long as Chicken doesn't get dropped in a hole and then locked in there. And no, it's not sewage, Renee. I'm afraid not. Right, there's Chicken. Are you ready?
I'll set her off.
There's Chicken. So Chicken's on the desk. Right, we're all present and correct. Oh. Tracy says, you're surprised they have the right to block the driveway. Well, to be honest, Tracy, so am I. Legally, they shouldn't, but the fact is they have. So there's about...
They do provide metal covers when they're finished.
That's if there's a hole in front of your driveway, but the hole isn't in front of our driveway. It's all the barriers. But the barriers are plastic, Tracy, so the only reason
Well,
we'd
if
be...
I want to go out, I'll be shifting it.
The only reason we'd have to go out at the moment is if Lola's ill. So if Lola needed to go to a vet, trust me, those plastic barriers wouldn't last 5 minutes. I'd just straight over them. But yes, they have blocked us in. We're not as badly off as some who have gaping chasms across their drive. And as Mike says, what they're doing is they're putting metal covers on so you can drive on and off. But
Kiva is now excited with the appearance of Chicken.
Oh, hello, Kiva. Yeah, we'll keep Chicken there. Is that second Chicken?
Yeah, first Chicken's downstairs.
First Chicken's filthy and downstairs. This is the Chicken that we did with the headshots. So yes, this is official MacBites After Hours Chicken. Awesome. Okay. So you do realise there's people with us who probably haven't even said hello in the chat, but hello to you, who are thinking, what is going on? We did say After Hours was quirky. But we are about to move into our first demo, which is an Affinity Designer 2 project. Is there anything we'll be using? Possibly not. You could maybe do all of this in Affinity Designer 1. But seeing as I've got 2, I'm using 2. And I called it From Concept to Completion because it was something that I actually needed to do for real. And I did take it from concept to completion. So as I say, it will definitely be Designer 2. And just to remind you, we do have Designer 2 for iPad coming up when I've got a date. And desktop when I've got a date. But that session will be just the new features. I may touch on a couple of new features tonight. The changes to the export and things like that, but not in any depth. So the project was, this is my YouTube header. It's as old as the hills, seriously. So even the MacBites branding's way out of date. So I thought, need to redo it. It's years since I created it. It did need an overhaul. It was so long ago I designed it in Sketch. Now, I gave up Sketch in favour of Affinity Designer literally 6-7 years ago. So it was time to completely recreate it. But the problem was I didn't have access to the original. So I had to start again. So I started from the concept of a project I knew what I needed to create was a YouTube header. And I knew I would need to know certain things about creating a YouTube header. The sizes could have changed since I created that original. So I set about doing my research, which I did find the right stuff. I found this was from Canva. I think the link's there for you to share, Mike. It's canva.com/sizes/YouTube. The only problem was, as I thought, oh, good, I've got all the information. There was too much of it. Really? There wasn't really a quick guide for make it this size and this is what that means. There was lots of information. Now, to be honest, that's the kind of thing I'd get from a client. We want this, we want this, we want this, and we want this. And then it's left to me to sort out the mess. So it's quite common that you would see as many different options as I've got listed in there, and you have to sort the mess out. But I did carry on. I thought maybe it's clearer at the bottom. And no, all I got was a lot more information. It's the channel banner I'm trying to create, and it says it's got an ideal size, but then it says it's got a minimum size. Then it says you need, for the best options, it needs to be 16:9, and then it needs to be this, and you can't be more than 6 meg. And I'm like, I'm going to need to make a note of all this. Seriously. But, right, let me get into that. So the key things that I need to know is the master size it needs to be. What's the biggest it could be? And that is 2560 by 1440. I need to be aware of the 6 meg, and I need to make a decision on my own behalf of whether it's a JPEG, a PNG, a GIF, or a bitmap. If it's a bitmap, it's going to be bigger in file size wise, and I may hit that 6 meg limit. So I'm probably going to go for a JPEG or a PNG. It's going to depend on the actual thing that I finish with. Then it rabbits on about different devices and all of the rest of it. I went right down to the bottom and there was no more information. So that was the information that I was working from. And what I'm about to create is what I came up with to do that. So let's go in and get Affinity Designer 2. Make sure I get the right one. Okay, having a think about it. You're not going to open on the wrong screen, are you? Splash screen's on the wrong screen. Oh, so's the file new dialog. Right, let's get this across here. Okay. It could well be in here that we've got one that's the right size. To remind you, that is 2560 by 1440. Doesn't look like it under devices. It could be under web. So let's have a look here. That one is looking hopeful. So each of these has a name. This is the default. I have not added this. I have created one here, which I did speak about, which is this one down here, because it was missing. I don't know why it's missing either, but it's missing. In fact, it's got 2 alternatives up here, but they're not actually the right size. But for what I need here, I need 2560 by 1440. Obviously, I'm working in landscape, but these buttons at the top here allow you to flip that around for portrait. But it's landscape. So the rest of the things that I've got in here, you can change the DPI if you want. You can create artboards in here. I'm going to leave the artboard so I can show you how to create it manually. I do want it in pixels. I do want to embed any images that I put in it, but I don't think I'll be putting that many images in it. And the colour is going to be RGB because it's for the screen. If it wasn't, then it would be CMYK. I could include margins if I want, but given what this is, I think I need any markers to mark the areas, not to be just margins. I don't need a bleed of any description, so that's not there, and I'm not concerned about a drawing scale. So I didn't make any changes to that. I just went with what was there. The only change I think you may need to make, and that is purely for speed, is that you may decide to add an artboard at that point. But I'm going to go without it, so I'm going to create it. So there is what I'm working with. Right. What I would do with something like this is from the very start, think about the final output and think about trying to work with it and not getting confused with what I need. So I know I need a black background. I could do that in any one of a number of ways, but in case I decide to make it a gradient or anything else, I'm going to start by just adding on here a shape, and that way I can have the background be anything that I want. Right, so I've got my background ready. I don't at this stage have an artboard. If I had an artboard, two things would happen. Well, actually, three things would happen. I would get something in the layers over on the right. I would get the title of the artboard at the top, and the background area that I'm working on in the centre stage would change to a lighter colour. I will make that artboard now. So in the tools over on the left, the second one is the artboard tool. So I'm going to click that. It offers a default of the document at the top, and then you can just insert an artboard. You do have options. You can choose an artboard of a specific size, or you can select something and add an artboard to it. Now, obviously at the moment, I want this artboard for the whole thing. So I will just insert that artboard. And you can see behind here, no, we don't want to do that. Let me get rid of that and grab hold of this board. Right, that's the grey that I've added. Behind that is my artboard. So let's make this a much darker grey for the moment. And we have our artboard. For this is what I'm going to export in the end. So I can call that, if I name the layer in designer mode, I don't have to worry about naming it in export mode. And on a personal level, I always name things in design mode, not export. If I name it in the export mode and I come back in here, the two names don't match. So for instance, we'll undo this, but that says artboard 1. If I go into my export and here is artboard 1 and I change that to banner, that is what it will export as. But if I come back into here, it is still artboard 1, and that is how confusion happens. So two ways to deal with that if you've already done it. Go in and delete the name completely, and it will flip back to artboard 1 because it needs a name of some description, and what it will do is go and pick the name from the artboard in here. So this is going to be my YouTube channel header or banner or whatever you want to call it. I also in there put my name at the end, just so I know which channel it's for. Your mileage may vary on that. Okay, the very next thing I decided to do was I need to think about these other sizes that they're talking about, because this is huge. And I've already showed you what the header looks like. And it's like a strip in the middle. And so which bit of this is the bit that they're actually going to use? And that's where you start to need the other sizes that they've given you. So the first size they gave you was 2560 by 1440. I would like to note that somewhere. So what I do is I put notes on the thing. So if we look down here, I've got an add layer option in the lower right hand side. So I'm adding a layer. That layer is on the artboard, but it doesn't contain any information at the moment. I'm going to put on there sizes. And then I'm going to put some text in here so I know what's what. So I'm literally just at the top of there going to put a note to myself. This was one of the features I hoped they'd add. They didn't. In Photoshop, you can add notes, and they are genuine notes. It's like adding a comment in Word. That would be really useful. We don't have that here. There's a dirty hack for Publisher, but there's not a dirty hack in here. So what I'm going to do is actually just type in there what size that is. It's not going to interfere with the design in any way, shape or form, and I'm going to change it to white because the background's going to be black. So I'll put that in there, and it's just hovering over the background. I then turn this off and the entire layer gets turned off. But that's what that layer is for. That's what I'm using it for. So we'll turn that off at the moment and we will go back to this. The second area you need to consider is an area called the minimum area. Now, the minimum area is, without that, you might as well not bother. And they give you a size for it. So I need to mark off on here a minimum area. Now, the way that I would particularly do this is I would get another shape on it. There are other ways to do this, but I'm just going to put a shape on it. And I'm going to give it a colour and I'm going to move it on here. It is not at this point the right size, and it's not even in the right place either. It's gone into the wrong layer. Right, this I'm going to set to the minimum size. The minimum size being 1546. I know I don't make these numbers up. It's ridiculous, isn't it? But I can go in here and put 1546 as the width. And then I need a height. And the height of that minimum area is 423. So that chunk of that is the minimum area. How do I get it in the right place? Well, it's bang in the centre. So as I move it into place, I get the green line in the middle, I get the red line across, and that tells me that that is in the centre. Now, that's because I have at the top here, by default, your Move by Whole Pixels is turned on, and I have turned snapping on. And from your snapping, I've enabled it, and these are the default settings. I will adjust these as I go if I find I've got problems with them, but they are just the default at the moment. You can in here set different types of snapping. I just turned the default on and left it, it was working. So that's what that is. Okay. Oh, we've got a. I would love to know what the dirty hat for publisher is. Right. Okay. I will sort that out later. Mike will make a note of that. That's virtually. It's got a queue, hasn't it?
Yes,
so add it later.
It's already in the question.
Excellent. So this bit is the minimum bit. I'm only going to be putting content in there, but I'll explain why you have the rest of it. That's the minimum bit. But you also have what's called a maximum desktop bit. This is getting silly, isn't it? A maximum desktop bit is 2560 by 423. Rather than draw another one, let's look at what we've got here. This one that's pink is 1546 wide, which is what it said, by 423. So I'm going to hold the Option key down, which is the Alt key on Windows, and I'm going to drag off and make another copy. Right, this one I'm going to use as what is called the maximum desktop area. Couldn't be easier to do that. First of all, I'm going to change the colour so we can tell these things apart. And this one just needs to be the width of it. So it's really easy. I'm not even typing it in. I'm just taking it across and snapping it. Obviously, at that point, it's over the top of the pink one and it needs to be behind the pink one. So we need to sort that out. All I need to do, drag, drop, put it behind the pink one. At this point, now I've got multiple sizes. So before I lose the will to live, let's go back to here and think about what labels we need to put in. So I'm going to take this one down to here. I'm going to make another copy of it over there, although it will need to be smaller. So we will take the size of that down. I could make it precise, or I could just do that. Okay. And white isn't displaying too good on that colour, so we may have to have it a slightly different colour that's not too horrible. That'll do. Right, this bit is not that size. So I'm going to go in there, and that bit, remember, is the safe area, which is 1546 by 423. This bit here is the full width, so that doesn't need changing, but it is 423 high. Now, what I could do in addition to that is actually add into it what it is. At the moment, all I've got is sizes. Future me is going to be thinking, and what's that for? But this is the maximum desktop. So let's put maximum desktop in. And again, we need to scoot that down in size or put a carriage return in. That'll do fine. This is the safe area. So go in there. Anything that's in there will show on all devices. That's what safe area means. This is full size, but it's got two names, this. So this is the maximum size, but it's also what will show on TVs. So if people are watching YouTube on TV, instead of just this silly little safe area in the middle, they'll see the whole thing. So I'm making a note of that in there as well. The one other area that I will put on here, but I don't intend to use to any great degree whatsoever, is it also gave me a minimum size. The minimum size that it can actually use, which I'm looking in here and I think I've got the wrong size, but it is in there and it's definitely not that one. So let me go and find what that minimum size is. I will go back into my presentation and we'll work backwards. What was the minimum size it gave us here? Right, does it tell us a minimum? Oh, it doesn't on this one. All right, what I've done is I've compared these because I was finding, I took a feeling from about 4 of them. And I went with the majority because they were different sizes. But there is a minimum on there. So we will move forward and I will go and find what that minimum is. Do we have any questions while I do that, Mike? It's in Eagle.
Yeah, Tracy wanted to know, how long do you normally keep a previous version of critical software?
I wouldn't be uninstalling it ever. I might not install it on a new machine unless I actually needed it. But other than that, I wouldn't ever uninstall it. The other thing is with older versions like version 1, Affinity have said they're going to carry on putting out updates. So critical system updates, they're not feature updates, but critical updates, they will update version 1 as well. So I personally would keep them there for clients that don't have version 2, and I wouldn't uninstall them. When I come to a new machine, I'd think about it. If I was going to install it on a new machine, I would choose to install the original version 1 first and then put version 2 over the top. Purely because I have no idea if there would be any impact doing it the other way. But that's how I would do it. If you're not stuck for space, there's no harm in just leaving it there and updating it as and when required. Any other questions?
Only Peter asking about the dirty hack in Publisher.
Right, which I'll come on to. Right, I've got my minimum. I've put down my wrong minimum. Naughty me. What can I say? The gas man was flat on his back in the hall. Oh, it was a tough day, wasn't it, Mike? Right, let me put this in here. The minimum is 2048 by 1152, which Mike should be singing the Piccadilly radio jingle right now. Piccadilly 1152, our local radio station. Right, so what I need to do for that is copy one of these or create a new one. Doesn't matter either way. So I'll create a new one and I will change the colour. Not too bad. This one needs to be a specific size. So down here, I'm going to type it in, which is 2048. And you'll see that that changes the width. It does not change the height. And that's because this little icon is the chain link. So if those two boxes were linked like that, if I change one, it would change the other. At the moment, I don't want that. And in there, 1152. How do I know where to put this? It's the minimum, so it needs to be in the middle. So again, I'm going to use my alignment just via looking at it. The green line, the red line, it's in the right place. It's in the right place, but it's not in the right place in the stacking order. It needs to move backwards. That shows us that this thing here, now we've got the minimum one on there, we're going to have to change that. So let's pull it back. So all of that is on the top and we know that that is the background. Right, and the next thing we need to do, let's duplicate that and put that in there. This is the minimum, being 2040 something, 8 by 1152. Now, if you're just doing this, like when I did my original, and I wasn't thinking about future me because I was very naughty back then, but now I'm thinking about future me, and I'm also thinking, may need this for different channels, may need to have one for clients. I am taking the time to do this. Future me will thank past me. Your mileage may vary. So I'm being very careful with this, so I know exactly what each bit is. So I'm going to get these things lined up. That will do fine. All of these are in the sizes to make absolutely certain, toggle them off. They are all in the correct layer. Right. They are optional, but they're very handy. And seeing as though you can toggle them off, what's the problem? So what I do at that stage is lock it. So this one here is locked. And I can then just toggle it on and off. By being locked, I'm not likely to click on it and try moving it. You can see that's selecting the background. So we will turn that off, not needed. Right. In fact, the majority of this isn't actually needed at this point, but I probably do need to be thinking about doing things properly. And what I mean by that is these have no names. What are they? And what size are they? So either I can put in here minimum and then put the size 2048, that's emblazoned on my brain, and 1152, not 3, and then go through it and do all of that with it. So this one is maximum desktop. So depending on what desktop size somebody has got, that is the maximum they would ever see. And that is the full width of it, which is 256, and it's times 423. So I put that in there. The pink bit is the minimum, and that is 2048 by 423. No, it's not. Hang on, minimum, or is it? No, it's not. I'm lying to myself and you. Right, it's 1546. Right. So the 3 bits on there, I've got those named, and this bit is the maximum bit at the back. So that one is full size. It's also the TV size, and it is 2560 by 1440. Can you see now why I take the time and do it properly? Because if I have to come back and do this, it's going to be a living nightmare. Right, so those are the bits I've got there. I can turn these layers off at that point. I can even turn these other bits off and start working on this background. So for me, my background needed to be black. That's what I was working to. Would actually be quite useful, not to see the minimum, but to see this minimum. Oh, I've got 2 sets minimum, haven't I? This is not minimum. This is safe area. Safe area. There we go. Right, the reason it would be useful to see this is the area that I'm working to. But if I've got this turned on, this block, it's going to be in the way. So if I just drag on some guidelines, they'll twang nicely to that. And then I can turn that off. I could even delete it, but I'm not going to because I may find a use for that down the line. Pro tip, I will. But now I've got this safe area marked out here, and this is what I'm working to. So I decided something fairly plain was required. I contemplated icons and then changed my mind. So what I actually ended up doing, I think I picked these ones. So I added my stripes, which are the predominant apps that I work with. So I added the 3 stripes onto it. I then decided the middle one didn't really work unless it was flipped around. Flipping it round causes havoc when you start adding stuff to it in terms of effects. So I actually have 2 things here. I have Affinity Branding LD and Affinity Branding DL. What's the difference? This is so ludicrous. LD, light to dark, dark to light. So I just need to choose the designer one that is going the other way. Simple as that. All I did with these then was bump them up to each other. And that gave me like a little rainbow effect. So we'll zoom into that a bit. I thought it needed something. So taking one part of this, I then added an effect to it. Icon for which has changed greatly, and so has the order. I don't know why either. But what I was looking for was just an outer shadow, a drop shadow, that would appear on the right-hand side of that. So no great settings in here. It was just a matter of adding it and playing around with it until it looked reasonable. So let's have a look. Do we have an outer shadow on there? We should do. I made it too big. Are you coming in at all? Where are you? Is it there? Doesn't look like it's there much. Let's add this. I think we're appearing, are we? Is it behind it? What's it doing? Let's add it to the other one and make sure. Right, let's add it. Again, all I'm looking for is something that looks reasonable, that changes that slightly. Right, okay. And then I would put it on the last one, but we won't be seeing it on the last one. It would hang off over this side. But that was what I decided to do with it. The other thing I decided to do with it was I didn't really want it just 90-degree upright like that. So I took just the sidebars and I grouped them. So Command and G. That's not a layer, I've just grouped them to manipulate them together, because what I actually wanted to do was just flip them round slightly, so they were at a slight angle. And I decided I would go with that. Now what I can do with this is scoot it down so it's very close to this. But remember that if somebody's watching on a TV, they see all of this. So I could go the other way and take this right up here and have it like that. And that way it wouldn't be blank when people were looking at it on a TV. So it really does depend. You do have to consider, if you're considering this, the effect of the gradient. So at the top, the blue is very dark, but down here, this is all merging into one. So I didn't bother with the outside of it. I wanted the full effect of the gradient on here, like that. So I've got very dark at the top, very light at the bottom, but something to think about. You could put something behind that, but it depends how you're designing it. And I'm only concerned about this bit in the middle. That was all I was bothered about. Right, next bit. My channel just has my name on it, so I shall put that on. But we could do with something a bit fancier than that. So the one font I have that starts with, oh, I've got two now, that starts with Z. There's that. I just stretched that out like that, and then thought there needs to be something over here on the right. And I was contemplating what that needed to be. I'm just making sure that that's in the right place for what we're going to do next. And I decided what I would do is take the orange bit from here. So that is this one. And I would put that over on this side, but I put some text on it and widen it. If you're wondering where we're heading with this, you may have seen this on my channel because it's actually live. I did that, so that was on a gradient, I think. I think I put it.
Jonathan said he'd already spotted it.
Oh, Jonathan. Right, and then I put in there, you'll like this bit, only we don't want it in that font, we want something, I can't remember what font I used. Ooh, it was fairly plain. It was fairly uneventful. I didn't go for one of the MacBites comic ones because you might have thought I was joking. Oh, let's go for one of these. That looks reasonable. Yes, it said, and I quote, new content every week. Oh, but yes, you know our schedule when you least expect it. Right, so that's probably a bit big, but something akin to that, and I popped that on there, making it the right size. I can't remember if I left that or not on a skew, because that's not really part of what we're doing. Right, the one other thing I did was I put more text on there, and I put in the authority in all things Affinity and beyond. Right, obviously that is far too big, and I made it a different font. But I wanted that to fit underneath the lane in there. So you can see it twanging. I think that is a little bit big because I didn't drag one of these onto the E, did I? Right, I put that there. That's spot on, and fractionally too long at the end. But you can use these guides, get rid of them when you're finished. That's just about right, so don't even need to leave it on. Right, so I've got what I need. At this point, what on earth do you do with this? Because now you've got to export it in a way that it fits for all of the different sizes that they've suggested to you. Right. Well, it's not tricky. It's not. Because you only actually need to export one file, and YouTube will be really happy with it. Why can't I leave it at one file if I'm designing for a client? So if I'm designing for a client, yes, I can export it at one size and I can upload it and they'll be billing and cooing. And no matter what device they look at it on, it'll be fine. But that isn't the end of the story for them, because as a client, they may need each individual image exported separately to use on other platforms. So if they want consistency, they're going to need the other sizes. Because of that, and because this safe area in the middle is just that, it is the safe area, which I'm wondering now why I've got two of those over there. Let's toggle this back on and have a look. Okay, we don't need that one. Let's get rid of it. Right, making sure that that's right. So this bit in the middle is the only bit that I actually need. or at least I need people to see. What I don't need people to see is this bit at the top. So we don't want them to see that because that looks terrible. We don't want them to see this bit at the bottom because, again, that looks terrible. And so forth at the other end. So this is actually hanging off. We don't need them to see the top bit nor the bottom bit. Right, so we have this safe area here. And we can now use that to our advantage. Our design is down here. So that's the tagline. That's the bit behind the new content every week. That's the text. That's my name. That group is the rainbow. So we'll call that the Affinity Rainbow. And those are all the bits that make up that. So I could actually group those and call that content. No harm doing that. There's a million different ways to do this. It's completely up to you. Right, then I need to restrict it to it. So I actually have this safe area up here. I'm trying to restrict it to that. So if I drag that down to there, you can see I've used that area that we'd already created, and now it's masking everything. So if we look at the edges here, that safe area, that content is still there. If I select it, you can just about see that, it's still there, but it's now masked to this safe area. So I don't have to worry about it, which is perfect because all I need to export is that. I'm going to get rid of this, which is where the E is. I can export the whole thing, and that is what I did, and that is what is uploaded to YouTube. But it doesn't stop there. Because if you wanted to do something different with it, if I wanted to add content around here, so let's say at the back here, I decided I wanted to change the colour, have the middle bit black, but have something on the rest of it. I could have some kind of call to action. So I could say, you know, go visit elainegiles.co.uk at the bottom. I could even put enjoy YouTube on your TV at the top, because the only people who would see it would be those watching it on a TV. Nobody else would see that. They're only going to see this bit in the middle. If they're on a desktop and it's really wide, they'll see that bit. Everything in there. If they're on a phone, they'll only see this bit in the middle. So the only people who will see the whole thing would be on a TV. So there are channels that take advantage of that and put kind of like game stuff behind there and Easter eggs to find and all kinds of stuff. I kept it really simple. So I masked it with that. So this is my content and I added the mask to it. So I used one of the areas that we'd got and masked to it. Right, that means as I'm coming now to export this, I'm going to go into the export persona, and in here I have one artboard, and that artboard is the whole thing, and I can just export that. So it defaults to PNG, it defaults to the current size it is, it takes the name from the slice name, which is the layer name, and I can just export it. So if I export that, it'll have a little think about it. We'll put it on the desktop. Naughty, naughty. And there it will be. There it is. And I could now upload that. In fact, that's exactly what I uploaded with a slightly different font underneath. That's it. That's what I did. But that's not where it stops. So let's go back in there. Should probably save this at some point, shouldn't I? Right. Okay. What else I might need to do for that client is I may need to export extra elements here. So for a start, I might need to export this bit, which is just the content. But it's much more likely I've got a little bit missing off the end on the left and right. So exporting that would be the wrong size. That is my mask. That is the safe area. And I can see that from the white handles. So what I could do to automate the export is add another artboard. So with it selected, back to the artboard tool, instead of saying document, which is the whole thing, say selection, and then insert the artboard. And I've now got another artboard up there. I would have to nest that to get the content in it, but I would then call that, this is the safe area, I think, isn't it? All right, let's get the safe area in there, and I've got an artboard. There is another way to do that if you don't want to do it at this stage. So if that would confuse you in here, there's another way to do it. Let's see if that ripples through before we go any further. Oh, it does. Right, so what we can do here is we could leave that. But if you don't want that in here because it's too confusing, you can get rid of that in the designer view, and you can leave all of your export to the export view. I've still got my markers in here indicating what's what. And what I can do in there is actually draw out extra bits if that's what I want. I can also move into the layers, and if I put everything in a layer, I could choose a layer to be exported as well. So it's just a different way to work with all of the export options. If you want to catch up on what you can do with export, I haven't actually put the link in there, Mike, but it's on the YouTube channel, and it was a couple of years ago. I did soup to nuts on export, so that you can do as well. Right, I could leave it there. I could. But that was what I started with. That was what it looks like now. So you can see I did use a different font, but I'm thinking that's difficult to read. We'll see. The last step is to make a template of what you've done so you can repurpose it for other channels or other clients. So how do you go about that? Well, I'd need to sanitize this. How far you'd need to sanitize it depends on what elements you've put in there. So for instance, I've got this artboard. It's the whole thing. If it's going to be a file, so let me save that at the moment. YouTube, that'll do. Right, I'm now going to clean this up, ready to make a template of it. So I would go in here, and what I could do to remind myself that that's what I put at the name, that's what I put at the end, is put channel name. And then when I see that, I'll think, oh yeah, I need to add the channel name to it. And then work through it one piece at a time. Do I want to see the sizes? Oh yes, I definitely need those, but I'll toggle them off at the moment. I may toggle those on as the last thing. In terms of the content, I do want the safe area there, but I don't need all this content that's my content. So all of these elements, I don't particularly need. So rather than just toggle them off, because if I want to send this template to somebody, they don't need all of this in it. I'm just going to delete it. That means I've got this content folder and my safe area is inside it, so it's masking it. That might confuse people. That's the last step they may want to take. So I can drag this out and put it back where it was and toggle it off. And that means put the content in there. These are the sizes. I would probably turn all of these on in a template, so when they open it, they've got all of the information. If they're going to need it exporting in a certain format, then you could add that format to the export. So in the slices, we've got this that's being exported. We've got it as PNG, but if the business needs something of a different size, you can put a different size in. If they need a different format, you can add a different format. So if you wanted a best quality JPEG instead and one at double size, there we go. We've added those as well, because what you set in here comes through in the template. So put as much information in it as you possibly can. And then back at this level, we're good to go. Right, I will leave the guides on because the guides are very useful. And then go to File, Export as Template. And I need to put it in a template location. My template location is in Dropbox, so it's shared across all my machines. So there are my templates. This one would probably go in YouTube. And I'd actually put what it is, which is, get this right yet, YouTube channel header. And save it. At this point, the file as it is in front of you is not saved. What I tend to do in case something ever happens to the templates is at this point I do a save as, because the save that I've already got has got my data in it. So I would tend to save it as template in capitals, work in progress, and then what it is. So in this case, YouTube channel header. I only ever use this if there's an issue, if I lose it or there's something wrong with it. So I just save it. And then we can close that down. Now, one of two things may happen now. It'll be interesting to see which of the two happens. If I go to File and New, and I go to Templates, I have my 3 folders. I have templates for all the MacBite stuff. Oh, after hours. Yes, it's worth a template because it happens more than once. Got my generic stuff, which is certain sizes in landscape and things, and I've got my YouTube. My YouTube gives me, this first one is the one we've just created, and that's what it uses as the thumbnail. The YouTube poster set on the right-hand side looks nothing like the file, but that too was a dirty hack. Who can remember what the dirty hack was for that? Put it in the chat if you can. But all I need to do is to choose that and say create. And now I'm off to the races. It creates a full new version of it. It is untitled, so it won't overwrite anything, and I can do whatever I like in here in terms of using these as masks, putting my content in my content folder, toggling these things on and off because I don't need to know, and so forth. And you have a shiny template that you can use to create YouTube channel headers for yourself and other people. So, what questions have we got? What have we got? Oh, Renee wants a template. I'll sort it out, Renee. I have to tidy it up a bit, but yeah. What else have we got, Mike?
Nothing.
Oh, okay then. Right, we'll head off into the next thing. You may want to sit by your keyboards at this point, ready to download a lovely free app. If you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen something yesterday that I made with it, which was this. So this was created, obviously the After Hours poster was mine, but the rest of it was made from the app. I didn't have to fiddle with the background or anything. I just looked through and thought, purple iMac and that background would match. So that was made completely in this application, as was this one. So, and that was genuine. That's not today, that was 2 days ago. So my move streak is 2,250 odd days. Right, the next thing I did with that same image, so again, the background image came from this app, but you can also choose not to have a background image at all. And if you go that route, then you can do things like this, which is there is now a video behind it, and the watch is in front of it. And if I wanted with that to have the watch moving, I could do that. So it's fabulous. The app is called Mockview and it's available from the App Store. You can go see it at mockview.app. So if you go to either the App Store, the Mac App Store, and download Mockview, or go to mockview.app, you will see it is not only for Mac and Apple, it works on Google stuff. I was surprised as well, but it does. I'm not sure why somebody in the Google sphere would be wanting images of iMacs, but they do. And it includes all of that. Now, I notice that the iPhone 14 isn't there yet. Other than that, they've not really... I'm still waiting for the shiny new iMac, the 32-inch iMac I've wanted for the last 10 years. I'm obviously on a long wait for that, but the stuff that's there is fantastic. So let's have a look how we can best use that. So let's get rid of you. No, we don't want to save that one. Right, we'll lose this so it's not distracting us. And we will open Mockview. Right, it starts off and the first thing it wants you to do is to select a device. And the device list is at the top. So this one is an iPhone 13 in red. You then have the 12. Oh, what was that one? Yes, a 13. Then a 12, then an 11, an 8. Never had the 8 myself, but it looks like a 7. You have a MacBook Air and a MacBook Pro 13-inch. You've got the 2021 MacBook Pro 16-inch. You have the iMac from 2021. You have 2 iPads at 12.9. One is portrait, the other is landscape. And then you have the watch, which was the one that I used. Now, all of these devices, so we'll start with the watch and work backwards. You can choose a model number if there is a range of models available. So in here, there's the Midnight one and there's the Starlight one with silver in my day. I like that one. I think that's very nice. So you've got 2 in here to choose from. Then you've got different options underneath. Now, the options that are available in this area here depend on what you select from the device list at the top. So some have more options than others. This one has a mock-up rotation. So you saw on mine, I did twist it slightly, but I didn't twist it that way. I twisted it so it was the other way. As you go with this, you can take it all the way round. And as you head towards the other side, that is in effect like twisting it to the left. Now, it does seem a bit odd to me that I'm now across to the right, but it will go all the way. So that position there is exactly the same as that position there, and the positions between them are varying degrees of rotation. So if you wanted that to show like that, because you have the crown upside down, which some people recommend, say it's useful, you can do that. So we'll take it back to the default to show the next thing, which is to flip it. And all that does is literally flip it. Now you might think, well, that's the same as rotating it, but actually it's not. It flips it and it flips the content. So unless the content that you've got is flipped to start with and you want to flip it back so you can read it, not much use. Custom colouring is quite strange because it's really blocky. It doesn't put a colour on it and then use a blend mode. So the shadow comes through, it's just blocky. So if you go and choose like an orange colour, it's basically like an outline. If you compare that with that, it's very, very different. But I guess if people want a sort of, they want it to look like a vector and not a photograph of it, then you could use that. The custom backgrounds are fabulous. So you enable a custom background and then there's a list to choose from. So the one I used for the watch was that one. I thought that worked quite well. And the one that I used for the iMac was that one. Now you can choose the output ratio. So 16:9 is if it's for a presentation. You only have one other option, which is 4:3, but 4:3 would fit an iPad and some people still present at 4:3. So you need to think about it. I left mine at 16:9. Then you've got the aspect of the image aspect ratio of whether you fit it, fill it or stretch it. Well, that's going to depend on the actual content itself. So we'll look at that. We've got some content. The other option you've got in here, when you choose a background, your options change above that as well. So when you work through these options, it isn't a case of you're working down and things change below it. Things can change above it as well. So you can move the mock-up to the left of it, leave it in the centre or move it to the right. So you could have missed those because you're looking at choosing a background and then, oh, this has happened up here. But yeah, you've got all of these options that you can put in here. What is less obvious as far as I'm concerned? And the last thing you've got down here is your low, medium and high quality for a save. But where do I add the image? Where's the image? But the image, you need to tap to add the image. So I'm heading over here and I'm wondering, did I? I did. I've got the same image that I used the other day. So what I would need to do with it is tap anywhere in this area on the left-hand side and this comes up. It's looking at my desktop. I am not. I'm looking in here. And there, come on, there is my move streak. So you can see the actual image was a bit longer. So I'm going to open that and it will put it inside there. So we'll put that back in the middle so we can see it. And if we take off the custom background, it's actually bigger and you can see it. So there it is. And then it's a simple matter of exporting it. Quality-wise, I exported at medium and high, and the difference was the size of the resulting file. So these are the ones that I exported, and you can see a medium was 1.2 meg, but the high quality that I exported were more than that. Now, what I will say is, no, hang on, this one I think was the high quality. And that one must have been medium. And it was really strange because they were the same size. So I exported that one and that one. I didn't see that much difference in quality. but there they are. So we'll export it now, just so to prove the fact I'm not lying through my teeth. Right, we'll go for high. We'll go for saving it. You'll have a think about it, but we're going to put it on the desktop. Desktop. There we go. And let's have a look at it. So it says it's successful. There's the image. And there it is. And that was the one that I put inside PowerPoint, and I put a video behind it. So it comes out with transparency. So the fact that you can do that with no messing about with smart objects and anything else, absolutely useful as far as I'm concerned, as long as what you want is in here. And so the next one I would probably go for is the iPad. Let me know in the chat, because I'm dying to know this. Do you have your pencil stuck to the side, nib up? Because mine's nibbed down. It's a bit like the toilet roll, this, isn't it? Is it over or under? It's over.
My pencil's not stuck to it, because it's an old iPad with an old pencil.
Yours is stuck out to the bottom. Well, if you have a pencil too, let me know, because mine never points upwards, it points downwards.
Well, my Surface stylus points downwards.
The Surface is spawn of the devil because it's on the left. And I'm right-handed. So I have to put my hand... I'm always groping at the right-hand edge of it, and it's not there. No, mine points downwards. It's putting me right off that. But never mind. So what I'm going to do is I have my iPad here. Let's take a screenshot right now. And I will ping that to myself. And we will use that. So incoming to Mohawk. Hopefully it'll just arrive.
Kim says Kiva's chewed her pencil.
Right, that...
I shouldn't laugh, Kim.
No. Can you claim that on your house insurance? You should be able to, you know. I remember when Mayor arrived and we had to pay dog insurance. And Mum was like, oh, you need to pay that in case he gets ill. And I'm nodding sage, yes, Mum, yes, Mum. And what I was thinking was, no, Mum. Because if anything happened, if he caused an accident, UK law is, they would claim off your house insurance and it was her house. So I thought, no, if you've got dog insurance, they claim off that. And Mayor was the kind of dog who needed house insurance, wasn't he?
There's my pencil, probably dead as a dodo.
Get it charged, Mike. Okay, so what I've done is I have got a picture to put in here. So let's click on that. It's arrived. It's not on the desktop. It's over here. So let's go get the Mockview. It is that one today. So you know it's today. There it is. There's all my apps, all three of them. There we go. You can even see I'm making a backup audio recording with the Memos app because that's flashing as well. Right, there's all my apps. And that was simple enough to add, wasn't it? Right, you can, of course, still do the rotation. So why you would want it upside down, I don't know. I would like to independently move the pencil, but that's just me. Right, I can flip it, but like I said, it flips the whole thing. At least the pencil looks right now. Obviously, the volume buttons don't. I'm just going to have to get over this ADHD I've got, aren't I? Right, so that's it. I would not flip it myself. You can custom colour it, but again, it doesn't look right unless you're going for a vector look. So if you're looking for something to match something else, but I don't like it. I wish that had blend modes and you could just set it, but it doesn't. But you can enable a background on it, so you're not going to see much with that, not unless I move it. No, you're not going to see a thing, are you? So let's choose one of the others. All of these like that. I actually think with these backgrounds, you'd give yourself far more options if you exported with a transparent background and then put it over something else. But that is just me. Right, at the moment, this is a silver landscape one, but you could go for space grey and it fractionally changes at the edge. It's very subtle, but there is a change to it, I promise you, there is. And then you would export that. So hit the export button. Wonder where it wants to put it this time. Oh, you're going into Mockview now, are you? I'm sending you back to the desktop so we can see it. There we go. And there is my iPad. My iPad's got the pencil the other way. But apart from that, it's my iPad. There you go. It really genuinely is my iPad. With all my favourite stuff at the bottom. Couldn't live without Readwise and Obsidian. Okay. So that is that app. Now, the good news about this app, all that you've seen it do here, so I should probably do the iMac one as well, shouldn't I? I was going to do the orange one. Really fancied that, but when I put it against the background, I couldn't really see it too well. Did I put the poster? I did. So I can click in there to add an image. It's going to go back to the desktop. It's going to get really grumpy with me, isn't it? Because I want it back where all my files are. And there, come back, is the poster. And that was how I did the poster that I put on Twitter last night. The reason I didn't go for transparent with it was this white bezel. I don't like the white bezel. But the white bezel made it look like it was unfinished. So I thought that definitely needs a background. So that's when I enabled the background and went for this one. At which point I thought the orange doesn't suit. And that's how come I ended up with the purple. I wish there was a space grey one. I mean, no. Pink, no. It isn't pink. It's kind of an off peach. But there are all the colours. So blue would have gone with it, but I thought purple suited it. And that was what I exported. So that is Mockview. It's totally free. But that is not where the Mockview story ends. So now lose Mockview from there. Get rid of this. And get back in here, because all of the options that you've just seen are available for free on Mockview for iOS and iPadOS. So if you're sat there with your iPad and taking a screenshot and you're thinking, oh, I'd love to send this with it, you know, surrounded, you can do that. So when I downloaded the Mac version, I went to the iPad and I was going to search the store. I ended up in the store, and instead of a get button, there was a download button. So you don't even need to make a purchase for iOS. It'll be there anyway, which you can't say fairer than, can you? So all of the features, you've got all of the available mockups listed at the top on the left. Then you can go in to customize them with custom coloring and backgrounds and ratios. You can rotate that one, so that's a 3D mock-up rotated sideways and you see the edge. You've got all the customisations once you've got the background in, as the left, the centre, the right, and all of your rotations and everything else included. So these are starting to look really cool, aren't they? Really cool on iOS and iPadOS. Right, who's ready for some freebies? You got any questions first?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Oh, okay then.
Yeah.
Right, then we'll do freebies. So, this isn't even out yet and I've got you a freebie. Right, many of you will know that I partake of Ship 30 for 30. Ship 30 for 30 is a writing cohort-based course. You write for 30 days. I then take a break. Others carry on, but not this week with the gas man. So what's happening is they are releasing, it's run by Dickie Bush and Nicholas Cole. They are releasing a new book next week. This is being released next week, next Friday, and it's going to be $19.99. But I have got you a link where you can download it today, right now. I think there's 400 odd pages, for free, totally for free. Right, I've used that URL. Mike is going to paste a URL in, which is the full URL. So full disclosure, that's a referral URL, but you don't need to buy anything. All you need to do, go in there, have a look at what the blurb is, put your email address in, and you will get the book. I downloaded it earlier. I'm loving it. They are very, very good when it comes to digital writing. So be it blog posts, even Twitter posts, Twitter threads, whatever it is you're writing, their stuff is very good. Very, very good. You know me. I partake of very few courses, very few things, but not only did I do Ship 30 for 30 once, thinking I'll do it once and you know, that'll be it, I joined what's called the Captain's Table, which is ongoing content from them, like for a year's membership. And their stuff is excellent, so can highly recommend that. So hopefully you've got that URL. It's shorturl.at and then CEFL9. But the link that Mike has posted in is the full link of mine, which is going to directly go there. So that would help me out as well. So there you go, free book for you. Right. The next thing is also completely free. This one is from Apple. Yes, I was surprised as well. It's an audiobook version of A Christmas Carol. Now, you know I love A Christmas Carol. I absolutely adore it. Best book ever written. And I thought, this can't be free, surely. So I clicked all the links and established that actually, yes, it is. It has a get button, not a buy button. So it's available from Apple via their bookstore. That's the link. Mike will paste that in as well because that's hideous, isn't it? That is totally a hideous URL. I've even got the US thing in there. But it works, and Mike checked it just before we started. In fact, that was funny, wasn't it? That you did check it just before we started. Because we had another freebie that I was going to talk you through that isn't free anymore. It was supposed to be free for 7 days, but they've taken it off after 2. So I wasn't pleased with that. So luckily, I still have two freebies today. So that is in the chat as well. We will put these links in the blurb underneath when we finish so you can find them without wading through the chat. Remind me to do that, Mike. So
there's a question.
Oh, go on.
From Pete, Dr. Pete. He says, can you rotate it on the desktop version from anterior posterior rather than the 360 around the middle?
I believe you can. So let's head back and have a look at that. I didn't put that in there, but I believe you can. So let's have a look. And you've opened up on the wrong screen. Come on. Right. Why has that gone weird? That looks like there's bits hanging off the end. Looks bigger than it should be. Is this the bottom corner? Or do we have bits hanging off the end? Oh, what's happening? Weirdness. Never mind. Right, let's see if we can. We have 3D there as a button. So if I click on that, there is the 3D bit. So I think I need to choose a mock-up first for this. Let's try that one. And click on 3D, and that takes us into a different view. Do we need to add that in first? I would expect to see it because it's got the phone here. So if I choose the iPad. Oh, we've got a mini on there. Let's have an iPad. And go and choose. Why are you not letting us choose that? Tap to add an image here. Ah, that's better. Right, where's my iPad? There we go. And let's open that up. Still thinking about it. No, I'm quite happy with the one that we've got. Right, have I picked the wrong iPad? Oh, tell me we've got an iPad that goes the right way, or I'll choose something else. Oh, that'll do. Right, can we rotate it? There we go. So yes, you can. There we go. That's actually really good, isn't it? That is amazing. And the fact that you can do it on iPad as well. So yes, Pete, you can, to your heart's content. So I didn't in that one choose the device first. And this is only previewing the mock-up image. So it's not previewing the whole thing, but it is over there. Okay, have we got any more questions about that one?
No. I think that's rather cool myself.
You're liking that, are you,
like
Mike?
that one.
I think that's useful, you know, because you would give it to me, wouldn't you, and say, can you make me something decent out of that? But you could take a screenshot from Excel and then have a really good layout with it. I can't fathom why in the devices they've made this for Android and then don't have any Windows devices or Google devices. Because it seems to me that the mock-up part is simple. Once you've got a mock-up, just slam the image in it and move it. But no, they've not done that. But there you go. Yes, it does do that. Okay, let's head back in here. Okay, where are we at? I need to move fractionally because we've done all the freebies, unless you would like to do them again. Right. Oh, this one's going to be fun. Full page cover pages. Now, this is something that comes up. I get a lot of people asking this from many, many different apps. And what they're talking about is, so take, for example, young Mike here, who always creates the stuff in Word, don't you?
Yeah.
And then bad words are said as you wrangle with the cover page. Word is awkward, but there's a whole range of apps that people come to me and say, how do I add the full page, cover page? And most of them resort to creating a PDF and adding it later. So these are the common apps I get asked about. So we've got Google Docs, we've got Word, Pages, Affinity Publisher, and Scrivener. Which one of those do you think is one of the easiest to work with? I think we can rule Word out of that, can't we? Word can be very awkward. Word is very similar to Google Docs. So I would say Word and Google Docs are almost identical. Pages is really forgiving. Really forgiving. Affinity Publisher, not difficult. Scrivener, amazingly powerful, but doesn't it hide it? So, let's go and have a look at that. Shall we start with Pages? That'd be a good place, wouldn't it? Right, Pages. Great fun with Pages. It's thinking about it. Oh, YouTube's telling me now would be a good time to put an ad in, but I'll leave it. Heaven knows what you'd get with that. Right, I have clicked New, and I'm not seeing a thing yet. Where have you disappeared to? Right. Oh, it's coming. It's coming. Here we go. Chosen a blank template, and you're still opening on the wrong screen. Okay, there we go. So, with this one, I'm going to zoom back a bit so you can see the edges of the page. With this one, we're assuming that you've got some content, and I had some content. I had some text. So let's go and have a look where I put the text. Where did I put the text? Oh, I left that in a Word file. So let's open up the Word file while we're at it. Oh, that's a different Word file. That's Mike's Word file. I will open this Word file. No, I'm lying. I'm lying. It's not Word. It's Pages. It's another Pages file. There we go. So this is what I'm talking about when I say a full cover. This is an image. It is page 1 and the content starts on page 2. So you have this as a full cover. If we look in here at the page thumbnails, you can see full cover and then we've got the text. But how do we do that? A couple of ways of starting, but let's go and get these, which is our show notes. I know it's like being shouted at. Right, so generally when you come to it, you'll be at this stage where you've got the text in. It's like, how do I put an image on there? So the first thing you need to do is make sure that your content needs to make space for the cover page. So in here you have, and remember we were in Pages, you can insert various kinds of breaks. So there's insert sections, page breaks, line breaks, section breaks, column breaks, you name it. A page break would be useful, which would force the text-based content onto page 2 and leave you the whole of page 1 to work with. Some people try and get away without that step because they're working on the principle, if I put a graphic in to represent the cover, then everything will move out of the way. You'd think so, but no, it's a bit tricky. So I'm going to work with some covers that I've got. If you're wondering where these covers came from, let's eagle ourselves for a couple of seconds while I show you. So what we have here, let's go and get the covers. Right, I've got there, these are show note covers, but they are of a certain size, aren't they? I've only got 4 there, but I do have more. But basically what I do is, when we export our show notes, which we've got here, our show art, we have our show art in various sizes. So this is our 1280 by 720. So we put that out. Obviously, we can't take that size and use it as a cover when it's an A4 document. So we have a show notes cover there. And I'm thinking if I just do some maths quickly, 595. Right, so if I go into our show art folder and I do a search for 595, you're not liking that. You're not liking that either, are you, you swine? No, it doesn't like it. Where have you put it? It's that one, isn't it? 595. There we go. These are all of them. The reason that we're only getting 4 when I go to my search is I've just doubled the size, so they're now Retina. So they're no longer 595 by 842, which is A4 size. I've doubled them, so they're now Retina. But these go back, not quite to the beginning, but they go back a long way. You'll notice that they do have to be designed separately because they're a totally different ratio. So this one, for instance, you can see the whole of the clapperboard, whereas on the poster, the bottom bit's missing. But these are the images that I'm working with. So I've just picked 4 of these images. I mean, who doesn't want to see bringing up the rear with a crafty full Monty? And these are the covers that I'm going to be working with. So that's what we're working with. So I have one of these in here under covers. So which one shall we pick? Should we have that nice pink one? No, we best not, based on the title. Nor that one. So let's go for the last one there. So here is one of our covers that I will just drag and drop in. And you see the problem straight away. It's totally the wrong size. But Pages is quite forgiving, as I'm saying. But see, as I'm moving this, that I've got this pointer moving as well. What I need to do is anchor that to the top and then scale it like that, so it's the right size. This is getting confused with itself because it doesn't need that. It needs that. And it's that simple. Now, you might think, well, that's no great demo, is it? If you've ever tried that in Word, Word's going to be great fun. But Pages is really quite forgiving. So all I would need to do with that now is create a PDF and I'm done. I have what we would record from. So this is how we create our recording notes. We just don't do it in Pages. So that's what it looks like in Pages. So we'll save that. It's having a think about it. That's fine. That's Pages for you. So we've crossed one off. Right, which one should we go for next? How about the tricky one next? How about Word? Got to love Word. Right, if I show you what Mike does with Word, where have you disappeared to? Right, Mike's done the whole thing in here. Now I wouldn't. I would do it as a graphic and I would bring it in later. What Mike's done is this is a graphic, this is an image, and you can see it's anchored and stuff, but this is editable. Now, for me, this would be done in Designer and brought in. You're okay with Designer, aren't you? But not that familiar.
Getting there.
Yeah, not to the point that he wants to try and do that and import it into Word. But the rest of this file is a standard Word file. So this is a table of contents that's generated, and then there's the actual file itself. Is this one of your new ones? A quick guide to functions in Excel. Yeah. I think it is, isn't it? Yeah. Let's just say MacBites Advent Calendar and leave that alone. We'll just leave that hanging there. Right, so I'm going to create a new file. There is a new file. It's automatically A4. There's no content in it yet. Need to get the content in it. But before I even get that far, I need to get the images in it. So we'll do the same thing. We will go and we will grab an image. Which one should we have? How about the full Monty one? There we go. There's a full Monty one. Now, technically, you've seen me do it in Pages. So you're thinking, well, we'll just anchor it to the top. That's about right. That didn't work. You're not anchoring that anywhere. There are secret areas here that you can't put that in. It just keeps twanging back. That's your first problem. There are a few hideous ways to try and make that work. But the easiest way by far, both in terms of positioning it initially and continuing to work with it, it's a dirty hack, this, isn't it? We need a stinger for a dirty hack. I'm going to cut the image. So the image is no longer there. This is my working page. There's nothing there. I'm going to move up. If you watch my cursor, it changes to a reverse facing arrow when I get towards the top of the page. It also does that when I go down to the bottom of the page, or it should do. There we go. What does that mean? Well, it means that you're in the header and footer area. You would be able to see anything in the header and footer area, but there's nothing there to see at the moment. But if there were, you would see it. And so if there was page numbers, you would see them. But if you double click, you change into header and footer mode, and it indicates your header at the top and your footer at the bottom. And you can click in it and do whatever it is you need to do. But once you are in that area, despite the fact you can't actually click up here and type, if you paste your image in, it sticks it in there. And you can move that into position. It's not having it now. It was having it before, it's not having it now. You know, let me size you into position. You are a bit, aren't you? Just not fully. Oh, it's misbehaving. Worked perfectly in rehearsals, you might know. Hang on, let's get that. Let's try again. Good job I could show you the mic one, that it did work in rehearsals, because it's not working now. Okay, that could be that I need to change something in here. size and position. That stupid thing with the text wrapping. This thing. That I need to have it not in line with it. I want it behind it. Let's try that. Let's have it behind it. There we go. That looks better. So I'm positioning it. My anchor showing me where the top corner is. And then I carry on and pull that down. Bearing in mind at this point, I am still in header and footer mode. I need to double click to get out of it. So there we are, I'm now out of it. It looks like it's faded, like a watermark, but it will come out properly. It will work properly. But because I've had to tell it to sit behind the text, now if I put my text in, so if I go and get my text, which I think was in the Pages document, wasn't it? Where's my text gone? It was that one. It's thinking about it. There we go. Right, if I copy my text and I come into here and I put my text in, it's over the top of it. And other stuff has happened. It's on every page. What's going on? Told you Word was a nightmare. An absolute nightmare. Right, what you need to do. This one here needs to have in it another page break. So the first thing you need to do is move all of this down onto another page. So in the insert, put a page break in. That means the front cover is fine. The second issue is, by putting that in the header and footer, if you think about the header and footer being used for things like page numbers, they're on every page. So on page 2, you would need in here to separate this out and have a different first page. So we've got the header and footer showing on every page. If we go in here, we have different first page. So if we click on there, we should have done that first. Oh, don't be awkward. Maybe I can just insert. I tell you what we'll do. We will cut that totally, which will get rid of it completely. We'll then say different first page. Then we'll put that in. And then we'll place it. Word's a nightmare, isn't it? And then we'll go back to it. And that is how you do it with, I won't say no grief. It's awkward. Word is the most difficult. Word is the most difficult. And now that's vanished, hasn't it? But it's there in the preview. Did I mention it being awkward? Trust me, it worked in rehearsals. I would create the PDF, but you know, it might do something worse. But that's what you would do in Word. Being honest, Pages is free. If you have that need, use Pages. You can even save your Word file out and then take it into Pages and do it in Pages. Personally, wouldn't use either of them, because there's far better ways. So that's 2 ways down. What did I have down as way number 3? I think way number 3 people might like. Google Docs. Google Docs, to be honest, is identical to Word. Shall I do Google Docs? Who wants to see Google Docs? If I tell you the next one, is we've got Google Docs followed by Affinity Publisher followed by Scrivener. So do you want to see Google Docs? Because it's identical to Pages and it's painful, isn't it? It's not good. While you ponder that and put it in the chat, I'm going to say thank you very much. And I think it's Alistair, because that says New Zealand. So thank you very much, Alistair. And I've got another one. I can't see who the picture is.
Deborah Benstead.
Thank you, Deborah. Much appreciated.
And Debbie S. earlier.
Thank you, Debbie. No, I missed that entirely. Looking at the wrong screen. Thank you very much. It is much appreciated. Right, I'm not seeing a yes or a no to Google Docs. I tell you what, let's go straight on to Affinity Publisher, because you like Affinity Publisher.
I like Alistair's comment.
What's that?
Thanks for showing me why not to use Word.
Word is hideous. Honestly, it's hideous. I did exactly that the other day and it was fine, and tonight it's not. Word does its own thing. You can get there in the end with it, and you know, if you're at work and that's all you've got, then you can do it. It's just messy. It's really messy. Affinity Publisher, absolute doddle. I'm trying to run Affinity Publisher. There we go. It's doing it. It's doing it. Okay. So Affinity Publisher 2. So we have nice, new, shiny, new file dialog. This one's set to letter to start with, which is bizarre because over here it says A4. So I have found a few flaws in that. So just because it's A4 on the left doesn't mean it's A4 on the right. Do a double check. What it's giving you in here being A4, and it's in the press ready section. So we could probably get away with A4 print. It's again, you've got this landscape and portrait to think about. Why have they separated that up there from the rest of it? I can't get past that. But in here, you have the option to say that you want facing pages. And facing pages is set. That's one of the big changes in the new dialog box, that it actually shows you facing pages. This bit here is showing you that that isn't a page that you can use. And the whole thing together is your spread. So it's giving you a preview of what that spread looks like. So that has facing pages. That's probably a good idea if what you are creating is that kind of document. You may not want facing pages if it's a report and you're printing it out. It would depend. It really would depend. I'll go facing pages and we'll see that. This one couldn't be easier, could it? Because in here you've got your margins represented, and you could have gone crazy with other settings if you were sending it for print. So you know that we have a job that goes for print every November, and it was sorted out last week. And I wouldn't have designed that one in the way that I've designed this one. But I might even be able to... Did I do that in version 2? I didn't, did I?
No.
No, because it was done by the end of October. Yeah, surpassed myself this year. But let's have a look what we can do with those images. So let's have that one, the tortuous spreadsheet. This one was where we were grossly overlooked, you know, in the podcast awards. That happened again this year. I really don't understand it. But all I do with this is drag and drop the image onto it and scale it. Now, one thing to think about with this, that's a little bit too big, is this is one of the ones that was only at 1 times. I did not retinerize this in any kind of way. And this file is 300 dpi. So I actually would go back to the source file of this, which is in Affinity Designer, and I would export something at 300 dpi. But that's the principle of it. As long as it's the right ratio, it doesn't matter at all. Now, what if it isn't the right ratio? So that is really simple. You place that on there and you're done. We love Affinity Publisher. It's fabulous. That's it. You would then add the extra pages that you need, and you don't have to worry about something going from this page to the next page. Word is a nightmare. Affinity Publisher, it's an absolute doddle. If it isn't quite right, so let's get rid of that, and we'll go get some show art that isn't the right size. Let's try that one. So this is the square one that we use on Instagram. And obviously it's not the right size either, and it's certainly not 300 dpi, but the principles are the principles. I would stretch this out, and I would be looking to see what I could actually do with it. So I could stretch it out as far as I could possibly stretch it. So I've got the entire height of it, and I can use Control and W to see what I'm losing, and I can move this. So I wouldn't be wanting to lose the title. I would maybe just mask that out up there and then put it on separate. Alternatively, because it ends with white, I could make sure that I've got more on it. I could even bring all of this on and all of that and just leave it with some white at the bottom and maybe put extra text on it. So that doesn't actually look that silly. If you took that across so it matches up at the bottom and you did something different at the top, so literally a patch job. If you don't have access to the original artwork, just do a patch job. Go and pick up the colour nearest to it. So I'm clicking and holding the left mouse button and dragging. And then with the item selected, that did not pick that up. Come on, where you go? That one there. You're not picking up the yellow. I'll go a little bit further out, that's better, and make that yellow. And then I would put the text over the top of it again, and it looks like it matches. So you don't even need an image. I mean, it's preferable if you've got an image that's the right ratio, but if you don't, there are things that you can do with it like that. So Affinity Publisher, totally forgiving, totally forgiving. But what if it's in Scrivener? Now, when we do these for real, it's in Scrivener. So when we do our recording notes, that's our running order, so we know what we're talking about next. I know it sounds like chaos, but it's actually planned chaos, isn't it, Mike? And we do know what we're talking about next. We just take 15 detours to get there. But we actually do that in Scrivener. So, depending on where your material is coming from, Scrivener could do a good job. You may even be able to bypass Publisher. It depends on the job. It depends on the work. So, let's come out of Publisher. You could even do an export from Scrivener and take it into Publisher if that's what you wanted. So, I'm going to run Scrivener. Hopefully it's going to stop and ask me for a file and I'll create a new one. Oh, it did. Good boy, Scrivener. Right, I'm going to make a blank one. I could show you the MacBites one, but it would blow your mind. It's got everything in it for the last 15 years. It's quite a big file. But this is how I created it. So I'm going to use the blank one. There are other things in here. So I've made a courses with modules and lessons. You've got fiction stuff and all kinds of things in here. The benefit of starting from one of these is if you're writing a novel, it will have items in the binder. There's nothing in these templates you can't create yourself. But why reinvent the wheel? But I'm going to go for blank so I can show you how to reinvent the wheel. You need to save the file before you start. Okay, so this will be a demo. I will make a demo file. And there's nothing in there at all. So this is how I would go about it in here. The first thing I always add is a new folder. It's going to go at the top with an underscore and it's going to be the inbox. I always create an inbox. And that way, if I've got something I want to add and I've got nowhere to put it, it can go in the inbox and I'm going to find it. You can do nice things in here, like change the icon to, if it's an inbox, I do that. And then I've got a nice inbox. You can even in here, in your projects, and we covered this the autumn of 2021, you've got project settings where you can tell it special folders. If you make a bookmark, where do you want it? And I would like that in the inbox. So all my bookmarks are in the inbox, stuff like that. Now, this draft folder is where all your content is. So your content would be in there. This is the written stuff. So this is a document. Let's go back to Pages and copy and paste again. Do you think that's the police shifting the gas, man? Right, let's paste that in. So there's my content. Now, if I want to output that content, the difference between Scrivener and Word and Pages is you don't get concerned with pages and layout in Scrivener. You don't even have to get concerned about what the text looks like, because when it comes to compile time, you can compile completely differently. It bears no relation to it. And that includes material you want at the front and material you want at the back. So what does that look like in here? Well, your content goes in your draft. But I'm going to add a folder. It's not a special folder. I'm just calling it front matter so I know what it is. I tend to put that before the draft because, you know, it's front matter. Guess what? Back matter goes after the draft. But in the front matter, I would then put in another folder, but you can organise this any way you like, for covers, right? But here, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to create this thing called front matter. I change the icon so at a glance I know what's what. And I think for the front matter, there we go, we have a front matter icon. So I use that icon for the front matter folder in any Scrivener file that I've got. So I glance at it and I know that that's the front cover. Then what I do, and this is exactly what the MacBites one looks like, I then add the images. And I can add the images straight from in here, which is Eagle, where they live. So I can drag and drop that into the front matter. I can drag and drop the others. And Scrivener treats these as exactly the same as any other content. It doesn't care. So I can put these in here. Now, one thing I do in here is I put them in reverse order. So 163 was the last show, that would be at the top, and 160 would be at the bottom, followed by 161. So in my front matter folder, the first folder in there, the first item in there is the show art for 163. That is the first item in the front matter folder. That's important. Right, but the good news is I don't have to worry about what size they are. how to get them in, position them, change sections. Forget all of that. Just fold it up. You're done. You've added it. That's it. In here, I may call that MacBites 163, but this is my content. And unless you are just wanting to copy it and paste plain text out of it, you're looking to compile it to making it look like something. So file compile is the equivalent to export in most applications. And then in here, you need to choose what you want the output to look like. Now, the first thing to think about is, well, what format is it? And for MacBites, we have PDFs, we have text, we have Markdown, we have HTML. We export to a lot of different formats. For this, we'll just make a PDF. Let's keep it simple. It's a PDF. I'm not going to add any special formatting or anything to it, but what I am going to do with it, and a lot of people miss this option, down at the bottom, you have add front matter, add back matter. I'll add some front matter. What front matter? None. I haven't got any front matter. Then why are you ticking the box, Elaine? All will become revealed. I'm adding the box, all right, and it needs to know where the front matter is, so I'll choose where it is. So I'm saying I want to add some front matter. This is where you'll find it, and it'll say thank you. But you're not actually adding anything. But when I go to the last option, it's set up a cover. And I didn't even have to choose which one, because it says cover image, first image in the front matter folder. If I wanted 161 instead, I could manually choose it. But obviously, by me ordering them in this order, it's something I never need to change. So I don't choose it, I just say choose the first image. And then I keep them in the right order. So this option down here, even if you haven't got front matter, and front matter is the kind of stuff you'd find in a book, the ISBN number, the author's name, the publisher's name, all of that stuff. You can add that if you want, no problem at all. But all I use it for is the front cover. So I do say I want to use the front matter, I do tell it where to find it, but then in the last option, it just struts its own stuff. You can see at the bottom, it says the paper size is 595 by 842. That's A4. The image size is double that, but look at the DPI. So it'll fit fine. It'll resize it. It'll take care of everything. So I will compile that, which is basically just save this. You'll see this is our comms folder, which was the last place it was saved to. But I will put it on the desktop as a demo. It said to open that in something. I wonder what that was. I didn't even read it. What's it opening it in? Oh, Acrobat, fine. Right, there's the demo file. You can see it is the demo file. There is the beautiful shiny front cover, completely pin sharp because I've done it at Retina size. And as we come down, there's the actual text-based content. So if it's something like that, I'd forget Pages, I'd forget Word, I would ignore Google Docs. And I think you're left with two that make it easy. One is Publisher, one is Scrivener. How would I choose? Depends on the content. The content here is actually in Scrivener. So we keep our recording notes, these things here, in Scrivener. So I wouldn't manually take it out and manually put a page in and then manually copy and paste the text in. Why would I do that? Because I wouldn't really be using Publisher in the right way. I'm not changing the layout and doing clever things with it. I can actually with that just open it and be done. But if you did want to make changes, so let's come out of Acrobat, it's on the desktop. So we'll lose Scrivener down here. Here is our file and it's a PDF. If for whatever reason you wanted to do that, you could open that straight up into Publisher. And it should be quite happy with it. Oh, look, it's even managed to get the splash screen on the right screen. Right, it wants loading all the pages and whatever you're doing with it, but let's just have a look at it and make sure that it looks okay. And it looks absolutely fine. So we could do that and then start fiddling in there if we needed to. If the stuff is coming from Scrivener, you don't need to make any changes. Don't bother with this step. If you do want to make a lot of changes, you could bother with this step, and you could even take it a step further, which is with this being in a PDF, depending on the style of PDF and how you've got it in here, you may need to make manual changes to things. One thing you could do is if the text is somewhere else and you just want to bring it in, just delete these and add your text. You've got your front cover. But PDF is useful from Scrivener, and Publisher use that depending on the content. Isn't that easier than Word? Don't touch Word. Mike uses Word. I'm impressed with you, Mike, that you managed to get it working. But was that just fear of Affinity Designer?
Probably.
That was his motivation. Fear was his motivation.
It was habit.
The thing is, why would you design a cover separately? So if you think about the covers I've got here, what these actually look like, let me go and find the original file of that one. Oh, this will test my file structure, won't it? Can I find anything? I can, it's in Dropbox. It's in Application Support. It's in Affinity Designer. And then there's a folder that's got absolutely everything in it. So somewhere in there, if I do a search for 163, it should miraculously appear. Right, let's have a look at that. So I'm going to open this with Affinity Designer 2 and show you what it looks like and how it gets out of there. Wrong screen for the splash screen. Oh, well done. You're actually thinking about opening the file I asked you to open as well while you're at it. Loading one document. Or it says it is. Yeah, is this going to be today, though? Asking for a friend. That doesn't look like you're loading a document to me at all. Looks like you're lying to me. Okay. Right. Oh, I can't close you till you've opened the file and you don't want to open the file. That's interesting. Okay, this file that I'm trying to open was created on the 31st of October, so that's obviously why it's taking a little bit longer. Right, what I've got there is when I create a file, so File, New, and I choose from Template, and I choose MacBites, I have After Hours, I have MacBites Live, and I have two different ways of working here, and I choose one of these. When I open that, I get this. This is the dirty hack that I then get rid of. So I'm left with this. And I then create these from it. Now, depending on the file, this one was fairly straightforward, but depending on the file, I might want to take part of this and use things like blend modes. And that's the stuff you can't do if you're doing it straight into Word. So if we look at Mike's demo here, this file, down here, the only thing he can do with that to get it to interact with the image in the background is change the opacity. So these three beads here, you really can't see them too well. If this had a blend mode on it, it would blend in much better. But Word can't do stuff like that. So that's why I wouldn't do it in Word. But your mileage may vary, like Mike's, because Mike... But you're much better now, aren't you, with Designer?
A little bit.
He's much better, trust me on that. But that's why I use this, because I have all of the blend modes available. And the reason that it's in Designer and not Photo is I've got all of the artboards, and I know I can do that in Photo. But I mainly use vector-based tools to create these things with. And that's what that looks like. So that was full covers and all the different ways to do it. Personally, Affinity Publisher or Scrivener. Don't touch any of the others, it's a nightmare. Right, let's head into here. So what do we have coming up? Well, we did the coming up at the beginning, so I will breeze through it quickly. But we have Affinity Publisher for iPad, so that is the most requested for the next session. As I said, I will have dates shortly, but I'll be doing Publisher 2 for iPad, Designer 2 for iPad, Photo 2 for iPad, and then we'll do our new features for the desktop version of Designer with a Q&A. If you've got questions already about anything, including the iPad apps, get them to me now. We can collate them. And then we'll be doing the same for Affinity Photo 2, new features and a Q&A. If it's Affinity Publisher you're after, it's already available. It's an epic. But as I say, a good hour plus of it is just Q&A. There were 47 questions that we answered. Very interesting questions as well. Some stuff I hadn't even thought of. You were on the ball. So that's available right now. Mike will put the link in for that. And this deserves a drum roll, if I do say so myself. We'll be back next week. Same time. That this is season 2, episode 2. That will be, or 170. But we will indeed be back. If you've got any suggestions for stuff that you would like to see, then ping me. You've probably got a couple of days to get that in before I make my mind up what we're doing. And then the gas man can come back and upend my entire working week. 6:30 in the morning. What did I look like, Mike? Dead on my feet. I don't do 6:30 in the morning. Well, actually, I do, don't I? That's not true. I do 6:30 in the morning, heading off to bed, but not usually getting up. So it was grand. But that is what we have got next week. Available on demand is everything. So youtube.com/Elaine Giles. Now, don't know if you've heard, I've heard several times, that they've got this new naming convention in. Well, apparently I am now at Elaine Giles at YouTube. So if you put in youtube.com/Elaine Giles, you get there as well. I don't know why they bothered, but they have, and that's it. We have a playlist of all the After Hours, going right back to episode 1. You will find that at macbites.co.uk/After Hours playlist, all one word. There's also all the MacBites on MacBites FM. Last week's show should be out next week, Gasman permitting. That was awkward, wasn't it? I was so close to having the show ready, but there was no way I could finish it because it was like, well, what volume was he at when he was screaming to his mate Tommy? And he said, "Oh, I know you're working. I'll keep my voice down." It was like a foghorn, but hopefully there'll be a MacBite sooner rather than later. We love you guys. If you love us, can you give us a like? Really makes a difference. And if you want the dates ASAP, then sign up to my mailing list at elainegiles.com/VIP. No, I do not inundate you with mails. You know what I'm like. It's the next one will be when you least expect it. If it's the MacBites things that you are interested in, including the Advent thing that we do, then you will need macbites.co.uk/macbites-mail. And failing all of that, if you want to keep in touch between shows, we have Slack, where we are carrying on the conversation. It's completely free. You just need to go to macbites.co.uk/Slack and follow the prompts and join in the conversation. We're a friendly bunch. We are a friendly bunch. So, what questions have we got?
We haven't got any questions.
Oh, there must be questions.
Well, there's a question off topic.
Go on. It doesn't matter.
Deborah Benstead wants to know when you covered Para.
When I covered Para, I did cover Para, but it was probably in passing. So I've actually had requests for that file organisation because it was mentioned last week in the publisher session. So basically, you wanted to know everything soup to nuts on organising files and how I do it. So I've got that down as an item of interest, organising files. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Let me know. So I will cover Para properly, where I explain the entire concept of it and how I've changed it. Dirty hacks to Para. Because Para's great as far as it goes, but there are circumstances where you need more organisation and some circumstances when you need less organisation. So I have tweaked it slightly, but it still works brilliantly. So if you were to look at any of my files, any drive, they all look the same. They have an inbox, they have projects, areas, resources and archives. And sometimes they have a couple of extra folders, like application support and things like that. So those are the exceptions to the Para rule. But yes, I've got that on the list. If I can find the Para thing that I did cover, although it was only briefly, I will dig it out for you. Oh, Para has changed, Kim. For the better, I hope, Kim. You can find stuff now.
Peter says, are you covering the publisher Dirty Hack at a later date?
I will do, because I need to have a document and then I need to do things with it to make it work. But I won't forget, Peter, I promise. I won't forget. Shall I add that in for next week? Make a note of it for next week, Mike. There you go. Mike's made a note. So once Mike's made a note, it happens. They should just add it. Let's say that. They should just add it. But there is a way. I just have to have a file that's set up properly to use it. I don't want to set one up from scratch and then spend all day putting stuff in it. But I will cover that, I promise. Right, I did see... hang on. Let me get to where I need to be. Where do I need to be? Where's that page I was on? Or did I leave that page when you... That first 5 minutes was fabulous. It's a shame you all missed it. It said it was broadcasting. It changed the view. It's got the audio bouncing up and down, and you're saying you can't hear me. And obviously nobody else could hear me either. I refreshed the page and then it said you're not broadcasting. I thought we just said I was. And you can't broadcast twice. So it was clearly lying through its teeth. But never mind, we got there in the end. I'll keep my eye on that for next week. Right, I'm looking at the Showtime tracker. I've no idea where I'm looking in here, but I'll look at it over there. Right, okay. I would like to say a big thank you to Graham. These are the people who have made donations, so thank you very much, Graham. And Pete and Annie as well. Deborah, thank you. And we mentioned Alistair and Deborah and Debbie. Thank you very, very much. Much appreciated. So do we have any questions? Any more questions?
We do.
Oh,
One's
fine.
just come in.
Where you go? I missed that one because I'm looking at the other page now.
From Patience, I need a good resource manager for lesson planning and such, and I know you use Notion, but you also use Scrivener and DevonThink.
I do, and which one I use for which job depends on the content of it, or where I need to use it. So, for example, DevonThink is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous, but it costs an arm and a leg and you only get one activation. So if the content was something I needed to share with Mike, or I needed access to on multiple machines, or my iPad, then I probably wouldn't put it in DevonThink. What I do use DevonThink for, because it's easy to do this, is when I scan information. So I have a scanner sat next to me, long story with that because it's not actually mine, it's yours. But I have a scanner sat next to me, a page scanner, and as soon as paperwork comes in, it gets scanned. And the scanner is hooked up to DevonThink, so that's where it goes. That kind of information I'm quite happy to have in DevonThink. It's not something, my credit card bill from 2 months ago is not something I'm likely to need access to from my iPad or when I'm out. So that's how I make a decision with DevonThink. How I choose between Notion and anywhere else is what the item is. So if it's something for MacBites that I need Mike to see, it would go in Notion. If it's information that I want to work on, so maybe I want to write a Ship 30 piece on it, it wouldn't go straight into Notion. It would go into my working area where I actually work, and where I work is Obsidian. Once it's written, I then want Mike to proofread it before it goes out, and that's the point it goes into Notion. So it really depends what I'm actually doing with it. Notion and DevonThink could give you the same organisation in terms of folders and things, as could Scrivener. Scrivener can be used on iPad, but it only synchronises using Dropbox, and it takes all day to do it. You can't have it open in 2 places, and for me it's just a bit too slow. So depending on where you want to use it, and if you need to share it, I'd probably be thinking Notion is a good option for you, because you could get to it on any platform. You don't need to worry about any of it, unless Notion's down. Now, Notion has been fairly, and I am touching wood, believe you me, fairly stable since January last year. January last year, it had quite a few outages, but it's been fairly stable since. And the platform's maturing nicely. So if I had to share it with people, or I needed access from multiple locations easily, Notion's probably where it's at. Now, if the lesson plans are the kind of thing that I would do with a course. So imagine I'm putting a course together for Affinity Publisher for iPad. That I would probably do in Scrivener. And that's because all of the meta in Scrivener is fabulous for organising it. I could just as easily do it in Notion, but there's a kind of disconnect in my head of no, if it's a course, it's in Scrivener. Because all of the meta that's in Scrivener is useful, and I can push a button and get a script out to record with. In Notion, I can do all the organisation, but I can't push a button and get a beautifully formatted output. No chance. So because of all the materials that I create with a course, I would have a simple outline. I would have a detailed outline. I would probably have a numbered outline. I would create scripts for myself. I would create materials for the student. All of that comes from the same material in Scrivener. I can't do that in Notion. So if it's a course, that's why it would be Scrivener. If your lesson material is something that you put somewhere and then you formatted it into another format for consumption, then Scrivener may be a better bet. If it's material where you put it in one format and it stays in one format, then probably Notion. Or Craft, or any of those kind of apps where it's in the cloud, you can get it on multiple devices, and it's in a single format. Also, Notion and Craft would give you the option to share the material straight from where you are. So you could have a page in Notion that has the material in it, the lesson plan, and if you want your students to actually look at that, you could share it straight from Notion. So there wouldn't be any like printouts or PDF versions. They're actually reading the real version. You can make it that it's read only, or you can make it that they can interact with it. But it depends on the output mainly. So there's lots of things to think about. Have a think about how that would best work for you in terms of the material you're working with and what format you want it in. And then come back and we can have another chat about that. But hopefully that will help you. Right, you mainly want a place to store and retrieve plans, PDFs and such to be able to easily retrieve and work on if possible, and my folder organisation on the Mac is a mess. Right, well the folder organisation on the Mac can be solved with Para, so we'll look at Para. If you want somewhere to store and retrieve and use that as it is, then I would say Notion or Craft, one or other of those. It's very close thing. Craft is paid for, so a Notion, if Notion is just for you, Notion is free. So let's say Notion on that. I'd create a database and I would attach the material to it and then attach meta to each thing. So let's say you've got 10 PDFs and they're for 10 different subjects or 10 different topics within a subject. Put them in as individual documents and then meta them up. So what I mean by that is put the subject, put the year group. You can go as crazy as you like. You know, the last date it was used, the date it was updated, a date you want to review it, anything like that. We did do a session, didn't we, on creating a document manager. And we did a different app each week, and one of them was Notion. So we'll find that. Michael, make a note of that, and we'll find the link for you. Right, let's have a look. What's this about all the Affinity apps?
Gerda wants to know how to synchronize between iPad and desktop.
On the Affinity apps?
I think so.
Oh, right, that's an interesting one. We can have a look at that. Let's carry on here. Eagle. Who's talking about Eagle?
Renee.
I thought that was in reply to
and
somebody.
Deborah.
Eagle is stunning. I find it difficult to believe we've only been using Eagle for just over a year. It is amazing. I started putting... the first thing I did with Eagle when I was organising it, Eagle is a digital asset manager. So if you've ever used Adobe Bridge, it's like that, but it has its own database. Whereas Bridge looks through your file system, Eagle, you actually add the files to it. And I remember last year when I started using it, I added images as I was working with them. So normally I had a folder full of the stuff for each after hours, full of the stuff. I had an individual folder for each event that I ran. And trying to find anything was like, oh, I have to go through the file system, and then I'll have to change the view and all the rest of it. And the first thing I did with Eagle was I created smart folders, one for each show. And coming back after 10 months, I thought, how did I organise these files? And I looked at 168 and thought, oh, like that. And I just made one for 169, and I've been dumping files in it all week. And it's brilliant. It's totally brilliant. I can actually show you that. No, we're not doing that. We're doing that. Oh, you're totally ignoring me, are you? No, you're not. Right. Yeah, this is the MacBites one. So that's Eagle. So what I did with it, I have my smart folders here, so let's fold the all of this lot up. That's what I've got. So I have a folder structure. I have an inbox that's got 6 files in it. I've then got my chapter markers. These are the markers that we actually put in the podcast itself. So they are all in there. Important to me in here, you'll notice they're not alphabetical order, because that's not how I use them. We start off with the show art, we move on to the welcome, then the backbites. These can be moved. So if we were doing that before that, I could just move it. So that was one of my requirements, and Bridge can't do it. So those are chapter markers. I've got the review of the year, which is the January through to December. So again, now with this one, they would organise properly because I put 01 before them, because I was doing that before I came in here. Then we've got the show art, and you can see how much show art we've got. And this is where the show art lives. These are physical folders where it lives in. So the show art, there's loads of them because there's millions of different sizes. All of these are for the last show, and they're all the different sizes we use. So obviously you can see that this one is for the front cover, and these are varying versions of a 16:9 ratio. And there are other sizes that we use like this, which is square and stuff like that. So while this is where they live in the folders, I also have smart folders because I do not want to be wading through this lot looking for one file. No, not happening. So if I wanted the front cover off 163 or something like that, let's choose an older one. Let's choose 145. I just need to put in the number, and that gives me automatically my 16:9 280x720. Because I've clicked on this first, which filtered it for the size, and then I just filter for the number, and boom, I'm there. It's just genius. I don't know how we ever coped without it. Honestly, I don't. And then we do exactly the same with all the after hours stuff. So if I'm looking for an after hours poster, there they all are. If I'm looking for the square ones, or I want the SVG ones, I've got the square ones here. There's the square ones for the MacBites ones. Just genius, total genius. We have looked at Eagle before. I think we did a 3-part series, but I have already been requested that you'd like a dedicated one on Eagle. So who would like a dedicated one on Eagle? Put that in the chat if you would. Would help if I press the right button every now and then, Good job that appeared off screen. Oh dear, oh dear. Right, so do we have... Oh, you found it, Mike, excellent. Create a document library in Notion. There you go. I actually wrote some Dutch, I wrote it back to Gerda. And I did it with, my language skills. I'm all right if it's computer language. Beyond that, no. So I did a bi-directional translation. I translated it in one app and then translated it back in another and make sure it still said the same thing. And it did. So hopefully that message got through. Oh, we've got 3 there for Eagle before we've even started. Right, okay. I think the Eagle one would probably be best done on its own rather than in a MacBites. And that way we can share it with more people, can't we? That would be good. Right, okay. If we have no more questions, we can now do what we usually do, which is a traditional head off for something to eat. Oh, I didn't have a treat yesterday, did I? Because the gas man was here. He disrupted us something chronic. I hope he's not here all day tomorrow. So I didn't get a treat yesterday. I've been having a little treat, which is a Magnum, which is ice cream. Even though it's freezing and I should probably not bother, but I do. And another one for Eagle. Okay, we'll add it to the list. You'll notice I'm ahead on posters at the moment. I'm all right with posters at the moment. We've got plenty of posters for events that we've yet to find dates for. But we will find dates for them. Right, okay, I hope you have all enjoyed it. I doubt young Jonathan made it to the end, not live. So good morning to you, Jonathan. Glad to have you with us at the beginning, and I hope you enjoyed it. So I hope you all enjoyed the content. Let me know if there is anything specific. You can go to my blog, elainegiles.co.uk/contact and send me something that way. I don't actually always see everything in Slack in a timely manner, but my contact form, yes, that will get through to me. So if there's anything specific, let me know. Other than that, I'm going to say it's good night from me.
And it's good night from me.
And we will both see you next time. Stay safe, guys.